these bad boys off. Put that down there. Alrighty then. I'm blind. I'm blind now, Steve.
We're all blind.
All right. Hi, welcome back to Unique Minds of the Okanagan. I'm Robb O'Day, and we're on location in Kelowna with one of the Okanagan's founding fathers of our metal scene, Steve Bifford.
Thanks,
How
man.
are you, my friend?
Not bad, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. It's been good to sit down for a couple minutes before
Yeah.
and do this. So why don't we dive into where you're from, how you got into music, and we'll dive into all the other bands and experiences that you had.
Well, I started taking lessons when I was a kid. I took acoustic lessons when I was about between 10 and 12. And then I got into electric once I was like 13, 14. And I've just kind of played heavy metal ever since. You know, I got into the earlier stuff like, all the bigger bands like Megadeth and Slayer and Metallica, that kind of thing. And then it's kind of all progressed since from there. So, yeah, it's been a good ride so far.
And you've had a lot of big names under your repertoire as well.
Yeah, some of the bands we played with, and the bands that I've played in, I played in a band called Amnos, which was like a thrash band, and I was like, I don't know, in my 20s for that. And then my band Severed Serenity, and I played with Empiria, I played with Thor for lots of different little tours with Thor. And and we've opened for pretty much everybody I've listened to except some of the bigger bands. So we played with 3 Inches of Blood and
Legendary band.
yeah, we played the venue with Empiria. We played with Sabaton, with lots of festival shows, and all over Canada and stuff, doing stuff with all those bands. So it's been pretty good.
How was Sabaton?
Sabaton? Yeah, they're
How was
cool.
opening for Sabaton?
Yeah, no, it was cool. They were definitely, I wasn't a huge fan before we played with them, but after kind of seeing their shtick and how they do stuff, it was it was pretty cool.
I find that happens a lot.
Yeah, like they have like a huge stage show, with lots of, at the Vancouver one, it was at the venue, so they didn't have I don't think they had any pyro or anything, but they still had some concussion kind of stuff going off, I think. But, because they're all about, war and everything, so.
Yeah, Sabaton is, I've always kind of related to like that Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
The style of.
Yeah, you either
metal.
like them or you don't like them, right? They kind of got a certain, kind of vibe, with their singer. Yeah, but it's really cool. Like all the guys there, they're all really cool guys and, really down to earth. Snowy Shaw, actually, from King Diamond, and he's been a session drummer. He played with Dream Evil and stuff. He was the touring drummer on that tour that we played, so that was really cool because I've always been a big Snowy Shaw fan. So, he's a crazy drummer from Sweden, so. Yeah, so it's that was a really cool show. That was totally packed, and it was weird, coming from Kelowna and then playing this totally packed venue. And I think it was Unleash the Archers and then us and then Sabaton. So that was kind of really strange.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Right, looking back now, when you're like, wow,
they're
Unleash
such
the
a big
Archers is
band.
like such a big band. And they're so. Probably one of my favorite Canadian bands because of the way they are. Like, they're such genuine people. Brittany is super supportive of the scene.
Totally.
And she's empowering. The things that she says are, after having conversations with her, she's super inspiring as an individual, let alone as a musician.
Yeah.
And Severed Serenity you guys were around for a long time. I remember seeing bills with Severed Serenity when I was like, I want to say 10, 11. like
it's been that long.
It's been like you guys were around for a long time, and like the lead, like I remember seeing metal shows at Voodoo's, and it would be like you guys and Finish Him or Slit Soul, and then who else was Halcyon? I think was around at that time,
Halcyon
right?
was
Like,
around. Yep.
So it's just like crazy to see the progress.
We had the same management, Severed and Halcyon had the same manager for quite a while, for like 5 years or something.
That's crazy.
So so we did a lot of shows together. They're a real cool band.
With Severed Serenity and Halcyon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've known like Halcyon guys forever, Jess and Corey.
Thank you. I was trying to remember the female in the name, Jess.
Yeah.
They were a solid band. I miss them.
Yeah, I did too. I wish they were still playing.
Yeah.
So.
With Severed Serenity, how far did you guys get across Canada?
We had a whole cross Canada tour booked at one point. But once we got into like Thunder Bay and stuff, our guarantee was too low. Like we had like $100 guarantee, and everyone else was playing us probably $500 or $600, kind of thing. And it was just the drive between there and the show after. If anything went wrong, it wasn't worth it. We should have just stomached it, looking back at it, just to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays I probably would have just done it, but yeah. So we were trying to be a little smarter with our money and stuff back then. And but no, that was. So we did lots of Vancouver shows. And lots of shows out in Edmonton and Calgary and stuff like that. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was Susie always the vocalist?
No, Susie was our last vocalist.
Okay. Because I feel like I saw somebody else, but I just can't remember.
Well, I used to play guitar and sing for, I think, all the studio records were, I was singing and playing guitar. For any of our recordings we had, but the in-between stuff, like we hired Susie after our the last record we did. It was just like a demo, but it was like 10 songs. And Susie kind of came in there, and then we kind of pushed that for a couple of years, and she was in the band for most of that. Then before that, we had a guy. Like a couple of years before that, we had a guy called Milich, and he was our singer for a little bit.
Okay.
And then in between all that, I was always kind of doing the lead vocal on
Maybe
and off.
it was you I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the big beard way back in the den either, right?
No, it was pretty tiny. It was a little goatee.
Yeah, so I might be even just thinking of you and just like
Maybe.
not putting two and two together.
Yeah, I was probably half the size of what I am now, too. Right?
Well, I mean, like, as you've grown, too, with the band, like, with different bands, which is, like, because you've watched the scene, and not just the scene, but, like, the music industry change in so many ways.
Yeah.
How's it been, seeing it change? Is it getting better, or is it getting worse, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's always kind of doing this evolving kind of thing as far as like different platforms and like the whole social media thing and stuff. You know, I don't stay up on a lot of it. Like Rich, our singer, he does a lot of our other social media platforms and stuff. I just kind of use Facebook, and I used to do YouTube and stuff for a bit, but I haven't done that in a while. So, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of more meat and potatoes back in the day, right? You put out a record and you just go and play shows for a couple of years or a year. do that kind of thing, and and that's kind of was your kind of bread and butter was the shows, and now everything's changed, right? I mean, a lot of people aren't making a lot of money off CDs, and but you got weird stuff coming back. You got like vinyl came back, and especially in Kelowna, I've noticed with a lot of the younger bands, they're putting stuff out on cassette.
Cassettes
And I'm
are
like,
huge again.
like, I never thought that would come back
VHS
around.
and cassette have both come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
Well, when we did, we did an Empiria show at Moonan's Post, and Mike had a box, the other guitar player from Empiria, and he had a box of old cassettes, and he's like, I'm going to bring these out and see what happened. We sold the whole box. That one show, he probably had, I don't know, 25, 30, 50 cassettes in there with jewel cases and everything, and they were gone.
Yep.
I mean, I think we sold them really cheap too, but yeah, it was weird seeing that come back. It's cool vinyl came back because, there's so much you could do with vinyl, and as far as your artwork and the different kinds of vinyl you could make. So that's kind of cool. And then, I mean, I've always bought CDs and stuff myself. That's usually what I'll do to support bands I listen to. I'll stream their stuff and I'll buy their CDs as well. So
Yeah, it's definitely a change. Where you used to have like you said, you just put out an album,
yeah,
some flyers. People are interested, they go to the show.
yeah,
It's definitely changed in the concept of like, even with the vinyl, it's so much
Yeah.
easier to press vinyl now. It takes 2 minutes
yeah.
compared to 6 months to do, right? And
Yeah,
it's like,
and you don't have to do big batches, right?
no,
If
you can
wanna,
do small runs of things.
Yeah, you
too.
want to do 100 or 25 or whatever, you can get that stuff done,
Yeah, it's
Same with CDs and stuff now. You don't have to, it doesn't cost as much as it did, at least what I remember back in the day. I mean, I remember cassettes used to be, with a jewel case, they used to be about, cost like $5 or something. So they're always kind of on the high side, but
It's the material too, right?
yeah.
It's a total different process versus just pressing the CD. Because I was looking into tapes recently about getting tapes done for the band with the CDs that we're ordering.
Yeah.
But the tapes, depending on how many you order, they can be like $13 a tape. So
Yeah.
it's like the price has gone up still, but they sell so well. It's insane.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It is.
and that's the hard thing too, right? Like making a business out of the brand that you're building is probably another one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not about music anymore.
Yeah.
I wish it was, because then it'd be easy, but now
Yeah.
it's definitely like you gotta like focus on
Well,
so
I
many
mean,
different
and
things.
it's like, it kind of happened, with the whole iTunes thing. It was like before you had like you'd have physical copies, you'd have, all your different, vinyl or whatever, you'd have all your physical copies. And then when Apple kind of came around with the iTunes and stuff, the big product was like the iPod or the iPhone, right? And so people were more interested in having that and getting their music free. Right?
well, they were still downloading. They
Yeah.
still paid for the albums at that point.
Yeah.
Now it's not with the streaming. It's totally
Yeah.
different, right?
But I mean, it's like what bands get paid on, for streaming and the downloads and stuff. I mean, downloads, you obviously get paid a little more, but
Yeah.
it just all the stuff to do with the artist kind of got clawed back, right? And it's like instead of the artist being the product, it became other things first, and the artist took a back seat. And ever since that happened, everything just became a lot more difficult. But everything changes, and that's how the music business is. It just keeps always changing. But
I was talking with Zach earlier today about that. That's like the music industry has had to deal with the evolution of technology into the
Yeah.
industry since we went from analog to digital. and it's only gotten progressive, more progressive, and more progressive.
Yeah.
But now, like, the other art forms are starting to understand what it's like with the emergence of AI art and these kind of things, and they're like, whoa, 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 and it's like, you got to adapt, and that's what makes you an artist, is that adaptation and finding how you work within the waves that are going in the music ocean, right? So
Yeah.
and it's, you know, like we were saying before, it's kind of difficult too in an area where it's super flooded right now. So like,
Yeah.
how can you even go and book shows when every weekend is completely booked up for the next 6 months, kind of a thing? So
Yeah.
it makes it a bit like of a, it's kind of like, it's heartbreaking almost in a sense sometimes, that it's like the industry used to be so, and even those shows that are fully booked, they're not even getting the turnouts that they used to.
No.
Right?
No.
Because we're flooded, and that's the downfall to the music industry with so many artists and streaming platforms and stuff. It's hard to get heard at all.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely, lots of things have taken the back seat, compared to how it used to be. But, I mean, it all kind of comes around, right? I mean, I've seen heavy metal go in and out of style probably 3 or 4 times in my lifetime, right? Where it was really big, and then everybody hated it, and like grunge or something came around, or disco or whatever, right? And it just kind of pushed everyone into the back, and you take a back seat for a few years. But it's everything kind of comes back around. People, I find nowadays people are buying a lot more stuff, at shows and stuff, as far as merch. And you can make weird things like, I never would have made toques or anything like that for any of the bands I was in back in the day. And, but I mean, nowadays, anything weird like that is gone like that fast.
I think the greatest thing that I've seen marketing-wise was Toasters.
Yeah.
Their bath bomb toasters, the best marketing thing ever.
Yeah.
That, like, you can make a bath bomb that's shaped of a toaster because your brand's named Toaster and sell them flying out the door. Like, more than any of their other merch, it was just bath bombs.
Yeah.
And that to me was like, that was a marketing genius move.
Yeah.
But like,
well, Thor used to, like, I wasn't on that tour, my buddy Mike was, but he had these things, they were called Thunderwear, and they're just like a thong that had like the Thor T over the front side, and literally Mike said that like they did like Vancouver, Seattle, Portland. By the time they got to Portland, they're all gone. Like boxes and boxes
Thunderwear.
of them. And it's like out of anything he thought was going to sell, it's like...
That's been our biggest seller. And the funniest thing is our booty shorts. We have an actual tally going.
Yeah.
And men are winning right now. More men have bought booty shorts off us than the females have, and it's absolutely priceless.
That's funny.
Especially Victoria, when we played Enigmatic Takeover, the Island Takeover.
Yeah.
There was one guy, the first pair was a dude, and I thought he bought them for his girlfriend, and the moment he handed her the t-shirt and he walked to the bathroom with the booty shorts, I looked at her and she went,
yeah.
like, yeah, he's putting those on. It was absolutely hilarious. And
that's funny.
It is the weird things that tend to sell, right? It's not like...
Yeah, it is.
And that's like, honestly, that's become more of my drive, is that hustle for the business than it is about the music. And I'm guilty of not wanting to pick up my instrument to write anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm so focused on having to focus on the business that the music's taken such a back burner, right? Do you find that you guys have to do that as well?
I don't know. I mean, with the old guard stuff, the band that I'm in now, the stuff we're doing, I try to just write the music. I try not to get involved in a lot of the stuff because Rich is a really good artist. So he takes care of a lot of that. So I don't really have to focus on it. And I kind of like it that way. I'd rather just, I've always told people for years that I didn't get into this to be a t-shirt salesman, even though that is part of the job. I mean, for me, it was always about the instrument. It was always about learning new techniques and becoming a better player. and just playing guitar. I mean, that's what got me into it in the first place. You know, so for me, I always tried to stay true to that. But I mean, you could end up very poor from just doing that as well, right? But I mean, yeah, it's been a good ride. You know, it's been good. It's cool to be involved with other people who take care of different things. Whereas opposed some of the stuff I had in the past, I was taking care of probably 90% of everything, so you get really burnt out.
That's where I'm at.
But now it's a good balance, right? Like Rich will do all the artwork stuff, I'll write the riffs, and then he'll write the lyrics, and then we kind of bring it all in together, and
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of how it's going now. So it's really cool. It's a lot easier to, you know, to write. You know, it's not as stressful, you know, because you're not just the one guy taking care of everything. Right?
Burnout's hard. It's real.
Yeah.
And like, and even if it's just mental, like you don't have to have a physical job. Like even just booking a tour,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
designing merch, trying to network. It's
Well, you
it's
know how
draining.
that goes. Trying to line like 5 guys' schedules up is like almost impossible.
It's
Right.
harder than trying to wrangle up a toddler to get out of the house to go to shopping. You know, honestly, yeah. And I think but that's like, it's always comes back to the same like kind of a topic where it's like the band are the parents and the music is the baby, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got to do their part, and if they're not doing their part, the baby's not going to flourish, and it's lacking in things. And it's the hardest part about being a musician is finding those people who are just as dedicated and have the same vision.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time is you start off with the same vision, and as you're growing, everyone's vision grows and different.
Yeah,
Like,
and it goes in different directions.
yeah, like Two Shadows. I just recently heard that they split.
Oh,
Like,
really?
They were doing so
Yeah.
well together. They had built a huge following, just
Yeah.
with different views on how they wanted the band to go, and it's just like
Yeah.
that easy.
Well, that's happened. I mean, even if you look at bigger bands, you look at like someone like In Flames, you know, like all of those other guys are now in the Halo Effect doing kind of what they wanted to continue to do.
It's the band,
Right,
that should
which
have
is
always
really
been-
cool
Well,
because,
let's
I
be
mean, I
honest.
like both bands.
Yeah.
Right? So,
But I'll be honest, Halo Effect is the one that should have
Yeah.
been. That was the one that the like In Flames and Dark Tranquility were there, but they should have just done that in the original, and it would have been so perfect because like,
Yeah.
oh, such a good lineup of musicians.
yeah, no,
And, like,
it is.
I find it so entertaining too because I feel like metal musicians tend to have like this weird obsession with other metal musicians.
Yeah.
Where like you don't really see like rock stars or like people who like are in rock bands glorifying. Maybe you do with like AC/DC cover bands and
Yeah.
stuff where they love Angus to that point where they're like
Yeah.
dedicated. But like metal musicians are so dedicated to their craft and to the music that they love, and I find it so entertaining. It is the weirdest little offset of just culture that is so embracing and loving, and it's I don't know. I wouldn't give up the metal culture for anything. It's
Yeah, it's definitely a weird thing. It's just
it's a weird entity.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at it compared to, you know, everything else that's going out there in the pop world and stuff, it's always kind of intertwined. Like lots of those pop artists and stuff, they listen to the heavier stuff too, right? And you could hear it come across in some of their music sometimes. And but yeah, metal's always, it's just this force that's kind of, you know, been in the background all the time that just never goes away. You know, as long as a 13-year-old kid picks up a Jackson guitar or a ESP guitar and, you know, starts playing Black Sabbath riffs, you know, it'll just continue to keep happening, you know.
It is a
And you think like some of those riffs, you know, say like, you know, Sabbath is doing they're gonna do their final show, or for Ozzy anyways, coming up. And it's like, man, that stuff's been with me since I was a kid, you know?
it's crazy to think how long that
Yeah.
is.
And it never ever sounded bad, right? Like you listen to that in the 90s, like I listened to that in the 90s and the 80s and stuff, and it's just that kind of music that's timeless. That, it never sounds bad. It just gets better, and it's like wine or something.
What
you
it
know?
is the quality of music
Yeah,
and the dedication that we had to that spiritual element of music was lost in the 90s.
yeah,
I blame it on grunge because
Yeah.
I can't stand grunge, but I feel like that's where it happened. It was grunge, the grunge scene, where it turned from
and I
being
didn't like that when that first stuff came up. I mean, everything changed later. Once I got older and I kind of knew how things worked
Yeah.
and stuff with the music, anybody who would dedicate their time to trying to be any kind of full-time musician, like, my hats are off to them,
Yep.
you know, because it's a tough gig.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, and it's like,
We're crazy.
yeah, and it could be very difficult. And for someone like that was coming out, like, I mean, like Alice in Chains kind of got pushed aside and stuff for a while, you know, because they were lumped in with that grunge thing. But I mean, I always thought they were just a good rock metal band, right? They always played like a metal band, and you know, and people tried to grunge them, but I don't think they were at all. And you know, nowadays, I mean, obviously they've survived the test of time too, right? They're still playing and doing their thing, even though Lane passed away and those other guys. But
Because they had that
know.
soul.
yeah,
It wasn't like, so I mean by it was lost in the 90s. Like, I feel that grunge, because grunge, I should rephrase that. It's not grunge's fault, but it is where it ended with grunge, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Because when you had like the emergence of the pop punk and the screamo and like what people would classify as the scene phase,
yeah,
that was a total different style of music that what now created the metal that we are listening to today.
yeah,
Which is the stuff that like me as a teenager I was driven to, because like growing up on Metallica, Megadeth, you're always naturally going to be looking for something heavier.
Yeah.
Right? And then it turns into Cradle of Filth and Demu, and it's just always evolving.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it hits a point where you don't want heavy, you want intricate.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start to find these gorgeous progressive bands
Like
and
Opeth.
and Dream Theater and Polyphia, and you start to realize it's not just loud, aggressive, fast music, but this is the symphonies of today.
Yeah,
And that's where I think people have like this weird misconception with metal. It's like it's loud, aggressive, and screaming. It's like there's so much more to that than you could ever imagine, and just to say that is like so
yeah,
juvenile and naive almost to like the best musicians who have dedicated, like, you want to see the most talented and dedicated to their craft musicians, they're in the metal world.
yeah,
You're not going to find them anywhere else unless you're like flamenco artist.
yeah.
And
Like,
like,
I mean,
and flamenco artists are intimidating to metal guitar players. You know what I mean? So we appreciate that.
but I mean,
it's-
they put in the same kind of practice as we
if
do
not
in
more,
our
right?
craft, right?
if not
Like,
more.
I mean, I could easily, if I got the day off, I could easily, you know, sit there and, you know, play guitar for 5-6 hours a day, you know, and those guys, they do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other stuff where they don't. They just, you know, some people you even wonder if they ever practiced. You know what I mean? It's like, but, yeah, I mean, each their own.
We never
but-
practice, I'll be honest. I'm very guilty of only picking up my guitar at practice.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, at home I
Some
don't.
guys
I
are.
just don't want to pick it up. I don't know why. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Unless like Josh or Norm is there and I can vibe off them.
Yeah.
I think it's because I spent so many years being the main writer for the band that I'm like, I want that creative input from somebody else now.
Yeah.
And or just like
But you're kind of getting practicing in when you're writing, right? You
Yeah.
know, when you're sitting there writing stuff, you may not think you're, you know, but when you're hammering out a riff and you're trying to play different variants and kind of get the idea down, I mean, you could spend hours doing that, not even realizing that you just practice for 2-3 hours, you know?
Yeah. Have you ever dabbled in anything other than metal? I've never asked you this.
I did a few solo records that were like jazz fusion
Really?
kind of type stuff. Yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know, like that Steve Vai, Joe Satriani kind of stuff.
I was
Probably
hoping
more
you were
like
gonna say
Joe,
that.
right? Like, I'm not a real fast player. Like, like
But it's
Steve
elegant.
Vai is, but that Joe Satriani stuff where it's, and guys like Marty Friedman, where it's just, he'll play a couple notes and it's just the way he picks them and the way he attacks them pulls out the melody in the song and stuff. And I like doing stuff like that. And so it's all like instrumental stuff. I did 2 albums of that a while back. I have I had a third one on the go and I just never finished it. I might probably do that in the next couple of years here.
You're going to have to because I want to listen to it.
Yeah, and so we'll do, it's all just instrumental stuff, but it's probably, it's probably Joe Satriani-ish sounding kind of stuff. I enjoyed that stuff too, instrumental guitar stuff. All stuff like flamenco or blues or even, some old country and stuff. It doesn't matter. As long as the music is good and it makes you feel something, then that's really what matters, right?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lack of soul in the music nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's because if you make a good single and, it makes it big and viral, then all of a sudden you're a good musician. But it's kind of a weird, like me personally, as being a metal vocalist and guitar player, I don't listen to metal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I try to avoid listening to other people's music, mainly because I don't want to influence what I'm writing when I'm writing. So I listen to weird genres of music outside of metal just to get some influence.
I have been this last couple of years. I've been too. I think lately, the last couple of months, because Spotify, you can pretty much get whatever up there.
Yeah.
But I've been listening to stuff like Lady Gaga's new record and stuff, and it's just for her production value. And it's intense, man. You throw your headphones on, you listen to all the layers she's got in there of stuff, and it's not all melodyne. She'll sing stuff raw and stuff, and she's such an incredible singer, right? But I mean, most metal guys would be like, "What? You listen to that?"
I love Lady Gaga.
I love that stuff too.
I love her as a person. I think she is an incredible person.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, and as an actress, as a singer, and the fact that she wrote all her own music, she can play the instruments.
Exactly.
So one thing I love about a pop singer who can actually write their own music is more valuable to me than somebody who just pays a producer to do it and sings on top of it. So she is definitely talented at what she does, but she also is it's where it's the pop industry is kind of there's two sections of it, right? You have the pop that would be pop music like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, that's I like to call McDonald's. But then you have the pop stars who are just because the genre they play is lumped into it. You know what I mean? So you have these really unique artists when Florence and the Machine first came out, probably one of the most unique female fronted bands for the longest time. And then it just it slowly progressed into it was classified as pop. And
she's the one who did that Jenny and the Goats from Game of Thrones.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think she was the one who sang on that. Their singer.
She just has such a unique voice.
Oh, very.
Right, and
it's just almost minstrel. Some of it,
or Grace Slickish.
Yeah.
And for me, Grace Slick, there is no besides Stevie Nicks. There is nobody better than Grace Slick in my mind for a female vocalist. So it's cool to see the evolution of music, and it's weird to also see it because it is changing constantly, and even the writing process.
And some of those bands, some of the pop bands, and like the bands you mentioned, who do the weird kind of almost folk pop, or something. Some of the stuff they're coming up with is super, super original, and that's what I like about hearing you hear something like that, because it's not the same 4 or 5 chords that you might write with metal.
The blast
it'll kind of free your mind into doing something else or trying different ideas. That's probably why I've always liked bands like Opeth, right? Their acoustic stuff. I love their acoustic stuff, probably more
Windows
than the
Pane
heavy
is
stuff.
probably one of the best written songs ever.
Which one?
Windows Pane.
Yeah.
It is so beautiful.
And that definitely makes you feel something again, right?
And it's weird too, because like anybody just sitting down and listening to an Opeth song is not going to understand mathematically what's happening because it is progressive.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think once you step out of the 4/4, people get real scared.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, it's not that constant rocking, right? Like your rock ends up on the opposite count. And then all of a sudden you're like, I feel naturally off. It's like a 5, right? Or a 5 or 7 and 9. You're always on the opposite count, and then it eventually comes back. But just letting go of that and feeling the music is like, it's magic. There's some incredible artists out there. And I think the older I get too, the less like there was always like, oh, pop music, I'm not going to listen to Lady Gaga, or like, I won't do that. But like, once you become a specific level of musician, you start to appreciate music for everything.
Yeah.
The only music I can't appreciate is this modern day country.
Yeah, no, I don't like the modern stuff.
Yeah,
like it's
so
and
cringy.
they all sound the same.
It's just cringy. It's so cringy. You like 40-year-old guys singing about drinking, partying with 13-year-old girls. To me, it's just weird. I'm like, bro, just sing about what you are. Be true. Like for me, it's always just be true to yourself. Like doesn't matter what you are or who you are, just be true to you. So like, I find it funny when you see like a country artist from like Portland, who's putting on that southern Texas accent and singing back this, right? That'd be like me putting on a Jamaican accent because I like reggae. Yeah. And then trying to be like accepted. It's like, you can't do that. That's not how it works. Just write the music, sing the way you sing, and just write country music. But you don't have to put on that twang. Yeah. So like that's where I get irritated with it.
Well,
like,
the older stuff was almost kind of blues based.
It was.
So it was easier to get into. Even if you didn't like country that much, you probably, if you listen to any kind of rock, you've heard some kind of blues. Oh yeah. And it made a little more sense, but the new stuff, it's like they figured out a formula.
That's what it is.
And everybody's doing the same formula.
And it's based off EDM.
Yeah.
Electronic music, because electronic music has that perfect rise and fall in its structure with the build-ups and the drops, that it actually like it's physically and mathematically designed to do so. And everyone realized that structure is what works and sells perfectly now. So you realize every single song is the same kind of structure, and there's no like dividing.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, I think for the stuff that we do, like with your bands and stuff, it's not really commercial stuff, right? Either is the stuff that we're doing, it might have a bit of commercial to it, but it's like those. Like, it's hard to think that there's people out there that write music to make money. Right? Like, that's never, ever, ever come into my head with anything. I write something because I want to write it. And if it's successful, that's good. I mean, but like lots of these guys, they're formulated and they're just out there to make money. And it's just like, seems like such a weird thing to do.
Yeah, I can't. Like, because music is like...
Yeah.
Music is my savior. Like, if I didn't pick up an instrument, I probably wouldn't be here. So, like, for me to, like... I always talk about it being a business and how it's, like, but that's because I've been doing this for, like, 25 years. And now it's, like, I'm at a point where I can survive off of it, right? So, like, for me to finally unlock that formula is a big thing for me to try and teach other people. Yeah. So, like, because no one taught me that. We had to do with, like... 20 plus years of failures and losing money and relationships.
Well, and it's different for everyone else, right?
It is.
Like you'll see someone else do something a certain way.
Works for
them. And then you'll think, hey, well, I'll try that. And it'll totally flop. I've done that before. And I'm like, what the heck, right? Yeah. But it's a different journey for everyone. Everybody's kind of got a different music journey, and you just kind of gotta poke at it to figure out, what's gonna work for you.
So over the years, with the amount of bands that you've had and the experiences you've had, what has been the biggest challenge for you to overcome?
Uh, I don't know. I've kind of learned from everything I've done, right? So I guess yeah, you always have challenges. I mean, obviously, trying to make a living at it can be tough, right? You always have to have a band together. You have to go out on the road and do shows a lot, and and still sometimes that's not enough, right? I mean, I used to teach and stuff. I used to teach guitar as well, so I always had other forms of income in music. But I mean, the stuff like when I was younger, it wasn't it wasn't the same kind of struggles you have now, right? Like you're just out there trying to learn everything. But when you get older, it's like it's harder to come up with stuff without repeating yourself. You're trying not to repeat yourself. You know that people, support your music for whatever they support it. They know you're gonna have a certain sound, and then you kind of deliver the goods, or maybe they don't like it. And but the older I get, I'm lucky that I kind of got to a point now where I just don't care what like I write the riffs and stuff for myself, and I make sure I'm happy with it. And then that's kind of what I do, with it. And I'll write something one day, and I used to record stuff on my phone, and I'll write a riff one day and I'll be, okay, this is really cool. And then I don't record anything. And I was like, if it comes back to me the next day, then it's worth keeping, right? Because I remembered something, right? That could also go really horrible too, right? But I stopped recording stuff on my phone and doing that. But it's changed so much over the years that different stages, you're looking at different things. But nowadays, trying to make a living at it, it's really tough. You gotta be able to do lots of different things, right? You can't just sit on one. You can't just be a guitar player. I guess if you taught guitar, you could, and you're doing other things like that, you're fine. But you can't just do one thing. It's like a super multitasking job, right? And that's not just one or two things. It's 5 or 6, right?
I think you touched on a valuable point, though, too. Like, it's if you want to make money as a musician in the music industry, you kind of got to look in different avenues.
Yeah.
Like you said, like you can't just focus on writing the music and playing it. There's so many other ways. Teaching music and this, I think, where people
promoting shows. You do a lot of promotions.
Like management and like there's so many things like artwork there's so many things within the industry that you can branch out to.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people doing it, like Kevin Moore, who's in Tidebringer. He's been a huge graphic designer in the music industry
he's done
since
some
he was
of
in
my
Bleeding
shirts
Alarm
in the past.
Yeah, right. And it's like he's from here. I grew up hitchhiking to watch him perform, and he's now making the album covers.
That was with the Bleeding Alarm?
Yeah. And it's like,
they're a cool band. They're really
so
cool.
good. That's what I mean. Like our music scene has been so good since '97, if not earlier. And it's just because it's such a small pocket of BC, people don't realize how much talent is hiding in Kelowna, which is why. Well, that's why also where we focus on the musicians of Kelowna versus like the painters and stuff, is because like there are a lot of painters that are talented, but a lot of the painters get the exposure because the city supports the arts and supports the painting and stuff. But like the music, it hand selects which music it would like to support. If you're not a singer-songwriter or a country artist, the city is not willing to book you and support you, even though our biggest bands that have ever made it out of Kelowna are metal, electronic music, and hip-hop. These are the biggest acts that have ever made it out of Kelowna.
Yeah.
You know, like
There's been a couple country, like the Cruzeros and stuff, right?
Yeah, but like I'm talking excision level,
Yeah.
downlink level. You know, the Wilds,
Yeah.
Golden Child. Like there are so many talented artists that are just like they get one. And where are they? They leave.
Yeah.
They don't stay in Kelowna because there is no support for these genres. And it's like if we realize like that's where our music scene thrives and then we embraced it and we just like as a city was like, hey, this is what we are known for. We are known for what we're giving. You know what I mean? And there's a distinct sound that comes from here too. That I think is like if you look at it, how many bands are blowing up out of here from right now?
Kelowna's always had a really good groove for any rock or metal. It's always been really groove oriented, and I mean that goes like right through thrash metal, through you know any of the stuff out there.
It's almost like the Dallas style, but from BC.
Yeah.
Like that Pantera, that groove, southern groove rock is
and
like,
I've had guys from Vancouver, that like lots of guys who played it from Vancouver, who've said that they're like, it's like you guys got this almost this Pantera kind of vibe, right? Where it's groovy, and it's like it's not just the metal bands, it's the rock bands as well. You know, they you know, and you don't see that as much in other places around Canada.
No, they've got their niche sound that comes from there. Like you've got the Halifax hardcore scene, and you've got the Toronto deathcore scene, but BC, especially Kelowna and Vancouver, are so extremely diverse that it's absolutely like it's actually kind of mind blowing. And like I think the best thing that has ever happened to BC is Spirit Box getting picked up.
Yeah.
The fact that they're from Victoria and they're the biggest band besides Sleep Token right now is there's so many eyes on the BC music scene right now, especially in the metal.
Yeah.
Like Tidebringers, they're growing on the road. You look at Deadwood's from the East Coast, but like Deadwood just did a Japanese tour. Like these bands that it was in 4 years that we were interviewing 4 years ago are now on Japanese tours, and like it's mind blowing to see how quick it's moving.
Yeah.
But it's like the local scene is still it's kind of like stagnant because like.
Well, we don't have as many venues anymore.
No,
right?
and that's
remember
what
we used
really
to have bigger
happens.
venues like the Habitat and stuff like that would have
I miss the Habitat
300-400
so
people, and even if the place only had like
Even the
120
Grateful
people,
Dead, you could fit like
it was
what,
still
30
a good
people
show,
in there, right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was the thing, or like, I think it's the way we go about it too. I've mentioned this many times in like interviews with bands. Is that we grew up and we ended up becoming of age. So that's what we focused on was the crew of age, and then like 10 years down the road, when all of these people that we used to network and market to are now having kids, jobs, and bills, they can't afford to go to shows anymore. And it's like we turned our back on bringing in a new clientele, and then wonder why there was nobody doing it. And it's because we never really inspired the next generation, which is like that is our duty. Me and like Zach were talking about like our duty as musicians. Like my last interview is like, as a musician, we hit a point where we have to, it's like it stops going from look at me to I have something to say that needs to be heard. It inevitably happens, but it's like the choices and what you choose to say definitely changes. And the way you act as a musician. And I think that it's that maturing as an artist that really is where your music starts to thrive. You know what I mean? Like, like you're saying, you used to like you write heavy the fastest you could, and now it's like you want to write music that is powerful to you, and it doesn't necessarily need to be. Right? It can be slow and melodic. And beautiful.
And I mean, like originally, like the old guard stuff, it was like back to like some of the solo stuff. I had all these oddball songs that everything sounded different. And I wasn't actually going to put any of those out. And it's all the songs we have in our set with the old guard stuff. And they all sound different, right? We got a blues rock song. We got and they're all done heavy. But, you know, you'll have, you know, like just a straight ahead rock song. But done heavy, we'll have a thrash song. We'll have something where about channel switching into clean guitars, and originally, like when we came out with that stuff, it was just supposed to be like kind of just like a side project, right? Because I'm like, who would put that many different things in there, right? But when you write for yourself, you just like, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it out, and if people think it's weird, I got a blues thing next to a thrash song. Oh wow, right. Write your own record.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is there's like especially metal,
Yeah,
so gatekeeped. There's so many people who gatekeep the metal industry that it's kind of like, it really takes puts a nasty taste in your mouth, right? Because like, oh, that's not, especially genres. Like when you dive into genres and how like each genre has its own clique and like they don't want to play with each other, and it's.
well, it's stupid. I mean, that was the cool thing. Like when we came back from the whole COVID thing. I mean, I know you guys saw it too. Everybody started playing with each other.
Yeah, we booked multi-genre
yeah,
shows.
like we're not doing super heavy stuff like Storm's doing, but we'd play a show with you, and we'd have a punk band.
We'd have flannel open.
And we'd have like an acoustic singer-songwriter person.
Yeah.
We'd have all sorts of weird stuff going on, and it sounded awesome.
I
right?
still stick
It's
to
like,
that.
I hated like back when I was doing it all the time when I was younger. It was always like 5 or 6 death metal bands that all kind of did the same thing, and it's like no one wants to pay $20 or $10. I think it was $10 we were charging back in the day.
The good old days.
Yeah, and it's like you got like 5 thrash bands or 5 death metal bands, and it's man, like
Okay, you're bored by the
it's better
third
to have
bands.
something variety.
And that's how why I definitely think why
Yeah.
Enigma has its own little following
Yeah.
with the shows is because we do have multi-genre. Because like for me, I always look at it like if I'm first waking up in the morning, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna put something soft on.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's gonna get to like hip hop and I'm vibing now, and then all of a sudden I hit the metal and I'm like, let's go.
after
You know
a
what I
pot of coffee.
Yeah, and I'm like, let's go, it's time to work. But like, I look at that the same way as when I'm booking shows. Like, I want people to walk in at doors and not be scared off by the first band. Like, you want to ease them in, let them have a few drinks, and then the punk band starts, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, I've got a couple beers in me, I'm ready to have some fun.
Yeah.
By the time the metal band hits, they're in the mosh pit because they've had 10 beers.
Falling down.
And they're ready to have some fun. So like, you gotta look at it like as a promoter. You kind of gotta look at like the outside perspective. Like, who cares if you have the best 10 deathcore bands on a bill? It doesn't matter. Like, there's no dynamics to your show.
And we're
It's
still
boring.
trying to keep it going that way now, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like
it
I
doesn't
know,
work,
like
though.
when I'm booking shows and stuff with the bands, you'll notice we'll always play like with punk bands that probably wouldn't necessarily be our thing, but we always try and play with people who are doing different stuff.
Yeah.
So it just keeps the audience interested all night, instead of you go out and it's like the best 3 death metal acts, and you're like, it's like, by the time your band, if you're headlining and you come up, everybody's burnt out because it gave that away to everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And
No, that's even like with the tours that we set up. The way we set it up and structure it is, it's like it builds up, right? You don't want to just like even right now I'm trying to work on like a more of a metal core tour, I guess you'd say. So it's like 2 bands that sing and scream because we're usually the only one who has like the clean singing with the screaming, right? So it's like, but you can only do 2 metalcore bands because nobody wants to hear a third one.
Yeah.
So do you go heavier at the end of the night, or do you start off softer, right? So it's like you kind of got to like give and take as promoters and musicians too, because like I think a lot of us are like, because there's so many talented bands too fighting for that spotlight right now, that it's like it's almost becoming so cutthroat that friends are starting to not enjoy playing with each other because they can't get the bookings unless they like, you know what I mean? Like it's frustrating and like almost defeating at the same time, which is kind of why I stick to Penticton personally as like a promoter. Like I stick to Salmon Arm, Kamloops, Penticton because Kelowna's that's tackled, it's already taken care of.
Yeah.
I'm not going to compete with Jesse and a Mayo. They're my friends. I enjoy what they do, and they host amazing shows. So
They do.
So like, logically, it makes no sense for me to host a show in Kelowna, unless it's like a one-off show for Storm the Empire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, Penticton's got such a cool scene.
It does.
And I don't think a lot of people realize.
And you
like,
see, back in the day, man, all we had was like Voodoo's. We had, and Voodoo's was like,
shout out to
a man
Donna.
may have looked, if you're on the outside looking in the windows, it might have looked like it's packed, but I mean, you only had like 50 people there or something, right?
Oh, we've
But the
stuffed
50
that
people
building,
who were
yeah.
there, they
They went
cared about
hard.
what was there,
Oh my
right?
god, yeah. And that
Yeah.
was like, that's why I love Donna. What Donna did
Yeah.
for there was amazing. And like, even Martin trying to continue it with Brit Bar, it's like, it still has that like, that Penticton grungy, grimy Voodoo's feel to it.
Yeah.
Even though it's Brit Bar, you know what I mean? And it's like, our scene here has been, and you've watched it, and like, that's the thing that I love to get to sit down with you, is you've quite literally watched it grow from like, and built it.
Yeah.
To see where it is now. And
Well,
it's
and
like,
it used to be a lot cheaper to do things, right? Like, you
Yes.
used to be able to get the barn, the red barn down on Lakeshore there. We'd have lots of shows down there. And we'd do all ages shows, and that whole dance floor was packed. Like, just like from the door, maybe 20 feet in from the door right to the stage, and it would just be jam-packed with, like, Skullhammer, which is Terrifier now, and we used to do shows with those guys, and it would just be like total chaos, and it was about $350 to rent the hall for the night.
oh my god, I wish.
The next time, $650. Next time, $750.
You know how much it is right now?
And now it just went up and up. And as soon as it got to $1,200, I said no. I said, "Oh, we'll go play at a
Venue
bar."
alone is, then you have insurance. It's been, I've tried to put on all ages music festivals for,
Yeah.
at least 4 or 5 years now, and it always comes down to the moment I say there's a metal band, they're not willing to give me insurance for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really defeating when you're like trying just to do something for the community, and it's like every turn you make, it's like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, nope. So
Yeah, and some of that might have been our fault. I mean, we had some pretty rowdy shows down there, right?
yeah,
Where you get people in the mosh pit you just see them do like a wall of death thing, and you'd never see that kid. You'd have my buddy in the back, Kim would be back filming it, and in the back, and you'd never see that kid come out again after he got taken out in the pit, right? So it was, yeah, I mean, it could get pretty violent.
and that's the thing too, right? Is like,
And I think that's, as soon as people see someone moshing, they kind of freak out, right? They don't know what to do. Like when we did that,
I'm out on that one.
we
Yeah.
did that show at a month or so ago at the OK Corral, and as soon as we started playing some of the heavier stuff, this guy was just freaking out, and he was on the dance floor, and he wasn't like violent or anything. He was just getting right into it. And all the security instantly come up, and they're like ready to noose this guy and take him out back, kind of thing. And it's like, man, you never seen people react. I mean, people do it at country shows too, Maybe they don't have a wall of death or something, but
I'm
they're still
picturing.
jumping up and down and like getting into the music.
Yeah. I'm just picturing a country wall of death. What that would look like. Do you think they square dance at each other?
I don't know. I think Willie Nelson could do it though.
Well, for sure.
He could egg that.
He could egg that
on.
on for sure.
And if not, I mean, at least he'd smell good,
Right. With what are you guys planning on doing now? Like as Ilgard, I know you guys are in
With
the midst
Ilgard?
of. Yeah, I know you guys are in the midst of working on getting a drummer and
Yeah,
all of this.
so we got Tyler right now from Nataka is playing with us, and he's just kind of filling in. They got a lot of stuff coming up this year. They're doing another record, and we're kind of starting to work on another record too. We got the whole next record is kind of done. We just have to actually all have time to come together and record it. And so that's kind of on the go. and Attack is kind of getting busy this year too. So Tyler's getting really busy, so we're gonna have to try and find a permanent drummer, that's just there for us. So anyone watching, if you want a drum gig, we're down.
Hit them up. No, and that's the hardest instrument to find, is a drummer that's not in 5 other bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's like you get a lot of the younger guys that just want to play death metal, right? Which is cool. I mean, I remember being there too. So, it's hard to find people when you're doing something a little different. People are, kind of, it seems a little harder to find someone for that kind of music. But
if you were trying to find, if you were trying to find like a jazz drummer, I think a jazz drummer would be able to add some really cool elements to it and still be able to tackle that heavy aspect.
Yeah.
Because they're some of the best drummers on the planet, and they don't ever get played with.
Yeah, and I know a few guys. We'll see what happens. I mean, we might do the album with Tyler, and
that'd be awesome.
Just kind of waiting, because he's played with us like faithfully for a long time, and we're real gracious.
Yeah, and he's an amazing dude.
He is.
He's so genuine.
I mean, he comes out and supports everybody.
Everyone,
right?
Yeah, I know.
You see him, he goes out to, any of the shows. He's phoning me, hey, are you coming to the show tonight?
Yeah, it's like Norman Jason.
Before, I even get a chance to talk to him. Yeah. So it's cool, and pretty much anything, even if I don't talk to him and I show up, he's always over there, right?
Yeah.
So, he's a really, really cool guy. So
and that's what I love about our scene, is like, you always see the same familiar faces out at every show. And like one of my favorite people in this music scene is Brandon. Wallstrom, I think, or Winstrom, the guy, Vizzy Best Guy. Everyone knows him. He is famous as Vizzy Best Guy at shows, because he's literally like high viz and moshing, and he's probably one of my favorite people. Him and Zach Robertson, and it's like there are some amazing, like, they're not even in the bands, but like they make the show so much more enjoyable. Like, it could be just them in the crowd, and I would be happy.
He's come out, man, to all my old stuff way back in the day, too.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's been around forever.
I think he lives in my neighborhood. I see him walk by my apartment every now and then.
Give him the devil horns.
With the high vis.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, no, he's a funny one. This scene.
Jody.
Yes.
Jody Turner. He's
shout out to Jody.
Everything.
I can't even. There's no words to describe Jody. Mm-hmm. Jody is probably the most dedicated person in this music, fans. Yeah, so every single show, and not even just local shows. The dude's like traveling to LA, and he's traveling to Las Vegas. Like, he is a music fan.
If you ever sit there with his phone, he'll be like, "Oh, hey, and they'll have pictures of the Trailer Park Boys and actors and actresses, and he just goes right hard for everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, I wish there was more like diehard fans like him. Mm-hmm. It's cool. Like, we have a couple younger fans we've recently made from like a Denenzi show. Yeah. And they've shown up to all ages show since, and they just kind of like keeps like growing every show with them. Like, they're bringing new people, and I'm like, these are my favorite fans now, because they go so hard. And then at the end, they're like so excited to talk to you, and it's like, I don't know, it makes you feel like how when we were younger, and you got to talk to a band after a show, it's like, it's like that, like.
Well, back in the day too, man, like we were hitting when Facebook was just taking off.
Oh God!
No one really knew how to do any kind of social media stuff, so I used to talk to like the guys from the Crown, like probably half the In Flames crew, like and Meshuggah and stuff. Like when that's how old I am. When the internet was first taking off, and it's like, I'm serious. There was the Meshuggah website, and there was the Megadeth website, and there was almost nothing else, right? And so you just email these guys, and they were just like we are now, right? They're just these dudes who enjoyed their music, and I got to talk to a lot of those people and meet a lot of those people too, just from that. But now it's different, now it's, you get people email you and they want to sell you something, or they want to, take over your page or something, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a different, like, and that's the crazy thing, because we went from, like when I started putting shows on, it was still flyers.
Yeah.
You know, like 11 years old, I was still printing out flyers, cutting them, handing them out, taping them up, just for crappy little bands. And then I remember when the pasties were, like, at the height of our time, was Facebook was, like, the tool for promotion. And, like, you didn't worry about flyers anymore because everyone saw what was going on. And now it's, like, this weird dynamic of, like, you have to almost do both, but, like, figure out where you're going to put your money and invest in the right spots, because, like, Facebook's algorithm doesn't allow anybody to see anything. Flyers are illegal. You're not allowed to, because it's considered loitering and littering. So it's like you only specific space. Like, there's 2 places in Kelowna you can do it, and they're across the street from each other. What? Yeah. How does that help us?
Yeah.
So, like, it's just like a weird battle.
It's gotten a lot different. You know, it's
you pay for an ad, nobody sees it. It doesn't sell tickets. Like, it's a weird, constant, evolving battle that we're always trying to just to get somebody to come to the show.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And even then, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, you could have like 200-300 people on Facebook saying they're coming out to your show, and then you get to the show and there's 10 people or something, right?
It's very like and that's also like.
It all depends. Like, if there's other stuff going on in town, people just don't have the money anymore.
And the metrics is such a valuable thing to us, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, you've got 10 monthly listeners, you guys must be terrible. It's like, no, that's not the case at all. It's like, that changes monthly. That's why it says monthly listeners. You know what I mean? Like, 1 month could be a slow month. It means the number you're seeing is from last month.
Like when we all came back from when we did those Nelson shows together.
Yeah.
We did Nelson and Cranbrook. If you looked at both of our pages, our monthly listeners were way up.
Ours were at like 3,000 at that point,
Yeah. And then it comes down, like, if you don't play for a month,
we haven't released
it might
anything.
come down a bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
who
those
really
numbers don't mean
watches
anything.
that, right?
Right at the end of the day, like, when we're, like, I'm guilty of it too. When I'm looking, like, when I'm booking bands, I got to go look at their numbers because I got to see what their numbers are.
Yeah.
They don't mean anything to me. I look at the numbers, I'm like, oh, okay, you have 200 followers on Instagram, 10 monthly listeners, and maybe 100 on there. Let's listen to music. If the music matters, if the music is there, that's all that matters to me, because I really don't care about numbers.
Yeah, and Rich kind of takes care of a lot of that stuff for us. You know, Richard is always out there doing that. You know, keeping an eye on stuff. I just don't give a damn. You know, I'm getting older, and I'm kind of set in my ways. And
it's kind of just a popularity contest. So, like, in my eyes, it really doesn't matter, because, like, at the end of the day, like, I have friends who have like 27,000 monthly listeners, and then you go and look at their profiles, and they've got like no followers and stuff, and it's like, are you paying for those views?
Well, you almost wonder, right?
Did you get on one playlist that manages, like? There's so many factors you got to take into the popularity aspect.
Well, and you look at all the sign bands. Do you ever notice they'll like put their album out one day, and then it's like, I mean, I know you're on Roadrunner Records or something like that, bigger, and you know they'll put a record out, and all of a sudden they have 20 million views. It's like,
if you've got 13,000 monthly listeners, but you have 20,000 million views, it's kind of weird.
So it's almost like when the record labels get involved, then it's there's different things that go on, I think. But
that's the hard part about the industry, right? Yeah. That's where it becomes the business versus that's where you really got to decide if you want to be a full-time musician or if you just want to be a musician who writes music. Yeah. Because like if you're wanting to do this as a career, you're not going to have friends, you're not going to have family, you're not going to have kids, you're not going to have any of this, because you're going to have to sacrifice every single one of those just to be able to have time to put enough time in to make a music career. Yeah. And that's the really the hard thing to face is like,
I mean, you could totally do a career like in music where it's, you know, like a part-time thing where you're just out there playing. I mean, you don't even need to put records out. I mean, I know lots of guys who have really good songs that maybe it took them 10 years before they even put a CD out or something. but they gigged all the time, right? They do throw a couple covers in, and I'm not talking like a full cover band, but they'll throw, a couple Black Sabbath covers in and a couple originals, and they'll go out and play, and then eventually down the road they'll put out a record, right?
Yeah.
I've seen guys do that too, and I mean, you could still, I mean, it's just, it's getting, it seems to be getting less what you get paid to play a show,
I think it's
compared to what it was, like even back in the day. I mean, when you'd rent the hall and it cost you $300 for the hall, and you're charging $10 at the door, and the whole place is packed. Well, you're making pretty good money,
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens. Everybody wants a different cut of the pie, and it just it just goes up and up to the point where it's like nobody's making money, right?
Yeah,
You're
and
just
then,
fighting tooth and nail
Yeah.
to have a little piece of nothing, or something.
Yeah, it comes down to like a huge moral battle too, I find. So it's like you want to provide the best music possible
Yeah.
without it coming out of pocket. And like people like me, it's supposed to be about the music, and it's always going to be about the music.
Yeah.
But you can't provide the music if you don't have time to do so. Like if you've
Yeah.
got to work a 12-hour shift,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're not going to have time to write music. So it's like you got to give those sacrifices up. And I feel like that's where, like, if we were to inspire the next generation just to be like, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can 100% be a working full-time musician, but don't think you're going to be the next Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Don't look at it like that. Look at it as I need to make X amount of money a month to cover my bills. How many shows do I have to book?
Yeah.
How much merch do I have to sell? And how much is my travel going to cost? Make it a business. Work
Yeah.
for yourself, and then you will be successful.
Yeah.
And it's not
100%.
about like making a million views. It's about living off your music. And if
Yeah.
you believe in that and you work hard enough and you try, like, people will see that you're dedicated to that. And that's when you start to become big. And you really see like the artists who last versus the one-hit wonders, or the people who are quick and gone the next day.
Yeah.
The ones who last are the ones who have put the time in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how long is, we were talking about Mr. Awesome. Mr. Awesome's what, 20-something years in?
Yeah. No, it's been around a long time.
Right? So, like, you just don't give up on it.
Yeah.
And you can do it. And I think that's like,
Way, 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 way back, like when I was in my 20s and stuff. We used to have this jam spot out in Winfield, and he lived right beside the house. And this is before he even played music. He used to come over, and he was friends of our old drummer Kyle, or neighbors. And Kyle, he used to put on the shows at Level and stuff.
okay.
He was one of our first drummers way, way back. So Kyle Wilson. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
interviewed Kyle.
yeah, and so yeah, I've known Roy from way back then, right? So it's cool seeing that he just kind of kept doing what he did, and he's still around doing what he likes to do.
And he's brought in with some of the best
That's
shows.
the important part, right? You don't let life break you, and you just do what you want to do. I mean, that's what freedom really is, So
If you had any advice for upcoming aspiring musicians in today's day and age that are trying to figure out how to get their foot in the door to start performing, what would you give them? What advice?
I don't know, man. I mean, obviously work hard at your craft. It's such a different thing now with all the social media stuff that you kind of got to stay on top of a lot of that. I mean, as long as you're staying on the top of a lot of that, and you're always practicing, and you're making your show better, obviously branding is very important too. Get a logo, and don't change it every 2 months. Just kind of keep it the same, and work on stuff and try to make stuff better. it's a hard job. It's not as, I don't think it's ever been easy, but it's definitely, it's easier nowadays to get your stuff out there than it ever was. But there's so much stuff going on, and to kind of stay on top of all of that, it's really hard. But I definitely just say work hard, work hard and enjoy what you do. Because if you don't enjoy what you do, you're not going to have any fun,
Yep.
And that's really what it is about, right? Doing music and being that, and doing that stuff is freedom. You're doing what you want to do, not what someone else tells you to do. And, just try and become a better person, inspire the next generation, I guess, And, yeah. But just hard work, man. It's lots of hard work. And the one thing that I've always liked about music is the more you put in, the more you get back, right? It's the same. Nowadays you can go invest money of someone and totally get ripped off, but something like to do something with music, and as long as you're constantly putting stuff in, you're always getting the same back usually, and that's what I like, It's just it's the last pure form of art or expression, that's out there. Everything else seems to be made off money and for money, and becoming wealthy. And it's music is I don't play music because I'm trying to become wealthy or anything, but it's like artistic freedom, right? I guess some people, maybe they wouldn't have that, but for me, that's what I've gotten out of it, is just artistic freedom to do what I want to do. And I'm grateful to have had any of the experiences and stuff that I've had over the years. I've had a lot of good things. There's probably lots of stuff that I haven't really hit on here with, chatting with you. I could go on for days.
Yeah.
And then, you got road stories and stuff like that.
It's definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
We could do another two full interviews with you on the amount of you've accomplished. And
yeah, we've had a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard job. It's not an easy thing, and if you really want to do it, it's going to take a lot of work.
That's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, and it's not just like, oh, writing music, like you're carrying gear. Mm-hmm. That gear gets heavy. You know how the merch box weighs. Like, it's a lot of hard work, and it's usually just you doing so.
Back in the day, we used to pull out 2 cabs each. So we go down to play the Cobalt, and we go down to play the Cobalt, and I got like a Randall 212 and a 15 in the bottom, and then a Randall 412 up top, and a 10-space rack on top of that.
The days
and
of
the other guitar
Rockstar.
player, same thing.
Right.
So we had 4 cabs between us to go play for 45 minutes in Vancouver.
Right. Yeah, the travel alone.
It was insane. Like, I swear I was in such good shape back then, just from carrying those damn cabinets everywhere.
Yeah, Meg always asks, she's like, you don't work out, but you don't gain any weight or anything, and you're in shape. And I'm like, that's because have you ever lifted my heads and my guitars? And like, they're all heavy.
Yeah.
So, no, it's definitely like, the amount of hard work you got to put in, it is all so worth it. Mm-hmm. That moment that you step on the stage and the drummer goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and you hit that first chord, and watch everything just sink into place. It's
and it's a different beast, right? You know, studio and live, or you see some people try and kind of put the two together, but if you keep them as separate beasts, it makes it more fun, right? Because what you could do live and what you could do in the studio are two different things.
Totally.
So live you could kind of ride off frequencies and stuff if you're playing You know, like say, you know, you're playing a tube amp like I do with my 5150. If I bite in more with my pick, I get different tones live that are more big and expressive than if I was in the studio, right?
Yeah, you can't
in the
capture that.
studio, it might be compressed a bit, and you kind of just get a certain sound, and that's fine for the record, and you could do 6 guitar tracks or something, but you know, like both of them are 2 different beasts. And now, you know, say like for a long time, you guys only had 1 guitar player,
Yeah.
right? So
I was the only
you
guitar
get
player.
up and you got to cover all that ground, and you were singing. You know, so I mean, it trains you to do different stuff when you're doing that. You know,
Yeah.
like
It's
stuff that you never do in the studio, right? But live, you kind of have to because you don't have a choice. You know.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's true. It's a totally different entity, live and studio.
Yeah.
And understanding how each works is. I always thought I was a good musician until I stepped in the studio, and then I realized I was a terrible musician.
You just got to work at it.
Well, that was when I realized, like, oh, you really need to work to a click. You really need to learn how to play properly to it.
And it's, I mean, when I wrote all my songs and stuff back in the day, I always had a drum machine. So the drum machine was my click, right? So I was always kind of same thing, playing to a click. And
Yeah.
you do that for 15, 20 years every time you write a song, and it's, you know, it just makes you a better musician.
Yeah.
You know, getting used to doing that.
I still have my click on in the background, even if I got drum tracks going.
Yeah.
Bing, bing,
Do you do it live?
No.
No.
No, we
Yeah,
don't do
neither do I.
click live yet. We are in ears, but we're not set up to metronomes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that would annoy me. I've never played to a click live, but I know, you know, a few bands we played with, you know, who do have that kind of live thing going on where they, you know, they got a click in their in-ears and stuff. And
I almost hate it.
that would drive
It's
me
too
nuts.
perfect. It's
Yeah.
too perfect. And I like
Yeah.
I personally, as much as it drives me nuts that Andy can get excited and speed songs up, those are I love those moments of
Yeah.
like, oh, we're all so energized and like, Andy, slow down, and he's not slowing down. You're like, hey, let's go. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and if you're all playing off each other, it makes a difference, right?
yeah,
And
there's like
it's-
this weird like bouncing off, and like we were saying, it's like a telepathy that like bands know when to.
So that's like, you know, the 35th time you played that song, and each time it feels a little different when you're
Always.
playing live, right?
Yeah.
Which is, even though you're doing the same thing, and that's the cool thing I find. You know, that's what I like with music too.
It's never the same.
Yeah.
Never.
And that's why, you know, people are like, well, how do you play well, yeah, you're playing the same songs different or you're playing the same songs every night, but it's different every night, right? I mean, you'll play that same song 10 different ways. Maybe they're not that noticeable to other people, but, you know, it's, you know, where if you're playing to a click, it would almost be like playing the same song every night, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's kind of where it's like you forget that natural, like, why we love music.
Yeah, and if you want to improvise something,
You can't.
Yeah,
It's-
you can't. You're just kind of locked in. Yeah.
Well, Steve,
Yeah, man.
thank you so much for doing
Awesome.
this. I appreciate you so much and everything
I
you've done
appreciate
for
you
our
guys
scene.
too. Everything you do in town for the music scene, it's awesome.
Thank you. We definitely want to get back on stage together.
Yes,
And
soon.
back on the road again, because touring together is absolutely
Yeah.
entertaining.
It's very entertaining.
Oh, it is so fun. Well, my friend, thank you once
Awesome.
again. And we
Thank
will
you,
catch you
guys.
guys. Yeah, we will catch you guys next time.
Awesome. Cheers from Kelowna.